Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan Pakistan.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Astaghfirullah rabbi min kulli zambin wa atubu ilayhi. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu pakhair agale ni hao chunushumme washmale. Hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, swabia, bhalli kare and hosh galden. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You're definitely watching Ramzan Pakistan alongside my very learned colleague, Miss Hajra Sati, and I happen to be Shahzad Hasan Khan. Hello, Hajra. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you doing today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much for asking. I'm good. How are you?
I think I feel fantastic, and it's just because of the fact that today it obviously happens to be Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not really very happy, and it's because of the fact that now all of a sudden I've been struck by this thought that, you know, Ramzan's not going to be here in another 10 days as well. But ladies and gentlemen, today it happens to be Friday, and we want each and every individual out there to please remember me, Hajra, our entire team, our guests in your prayers as well. But not just that, I think it is a very important day because we are reaching the end of the second Ashra, ladies and gentlemen, where now obviously the third Ashra and the last Ashra for Ramadan is going to start, where it is about seeking forgiveness from or mercy from the hellfire from Allah Almighty as well. But today it is a very important day because as soon as, you know, after the iftar, people will actually be making their way to the mosque to make sure that they're going to kind of sit in for the etikaf. I do not know what the English version for etikaf might probably be, or probably staying the last 10 days of Ramadan in the mosque, or probably doing qiyam and making sure that they're going to do their ibadas, they're going to, you know, kind of seek forgiveness from Allah Almighty, pray for each and every individual. And for all of those people who are doing that today, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you remember us and our entire team in your du'as as well. What about you? Have you ever been in an etikaf?
No, I haven't been. Have you?
No, I haven't been as well.
Right. But I also think the significance of, you know, the last Ashra of Ramadan is also that we are going to have takrats, right?
Yes.
And they're very holy nights, and I think whoever prays in this night, the what do you call it? The sawab is multifold, right? The reward is multifold, and of course we make sure that, you know, we bring very enticing, very knowledgeable, very enlightening topics to you with our you know, special
religious scholars and guests. Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, in addition to that, obviously just yesterday we were talking about ijtehad, and we will come back to that, and we will definitely kind of give you a revision of what we discussed or what we established. But before we do that, let's come down to a worldly affair where it happens to be International World Earth Day as well, where in 2022, ladies and gentlemen, yes, obviously the reason is to kind of raise awareness about climate change and how we really need that kind of awareness, where we need to protect our planet as well. And the theme this year is invest in our planet, ladies and gentlemen. And to do so, I think what we really need to do is that we really need to spread awareness, and PTV World this morning is actually taking advantage of this opportunity.
Right. So there's no denying this fact, Shahzad, that we are failing the planet Earth, and that's why World Earth Day is being observed to encourage and raise awareness of climate change and environment protection. And of course, as you mentioned, the theme is invest in our planet, calling for business to shift towards sustainable practices.
And you know what, Haji, in addition to that, the day actually aims to spread awareness about issues including pollution, deforestation and global warming. A number of campaigns, drives and events are organized to motivate people to come together and help find solutions to problems plaguing our planet.
That's true. And during the first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970, 20 million hit the streets across cities to protest against the impacts of 150 years of industrial development, which have left a growing legacy of serious human health impacts.
I think only if these 20 million start to make some wise choices, you know, the effect of climate change we might be able to kind of reduce it as well. And ladies and gentlemen, it is a shared responsibility. Each and every individual out there really needs to kind of work on that. For example, renewable energy resources, you know, a lot of people are working on it as well. But now, obviously, since it's my and your responsibility, in the first place, it was our responsibility to share it with you so that we raise awareness. Now, it's your responsibility to share it with your friends. And if you see somebody is kind of adding on to the sort of climate change where we see a lot of places being depleted from the very what do we call it, map, yes. So
Right.
I think that the world really needs to come together. There are SDGs in place, which we really need to follow strictly. And just while it was COVID,
Right.
for the last 2 years, we saw that how the planet Earth actually kind of
Was healing,
blossomed,
right,
and
right.
everything was just back to normal. But unfortunately, because of the way we live these days, ladies and gentlemen, we're not doing good to our planet. Please make sure that you're a responsible citizen. In fact, a responsible global citizens, and that's something which we and you need to do together.
Right, right, of course. And moving forward, Shahzad, we do have a package.
Yes,
On-
exactly. And that too, so would you mind if I introduce that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, so what we really needed to kind of share was that, okay, so for the last 20 days we have been fasting, but we haven't really spoken about the importance of fasting and why do we actually fast? Why
Right.
do we, as Muslims, why do we stop ourselves from not eating and then not drinking and then, kind of having that sort of patience where what Allah has actually told us, we really need to do that. And Allah repeatedly has told us that, that Rosa is for me and I'm going to give the ajr for Rosa as well. But why do we actually fast is something which we wanted to share on Ramzan Pakistan. Please go ahead, take a look and take a good listen.
Iftar is an Arabic word which literally means to break. In the Islamic context, it means to break the fast, to eat and drink in the evening after the day-long fast. Iftar is not simply a matter of having dinner. It has a great significance. It is the partaking of a combination of spiritual and physical food, the source of spiritual development. This spiritual experience inculcates the importance of philanthropy. One becomes more sensitive towards those people who are unable to meet their needs. This feeling gives oneself an incentive to give assistance to such people. According to Islamic teachings, iftar should be a simple meal and not a lavish affair. Simplicity saves us from distraction and will make us concentrate on the spiritual aspect of fasting. A lavish iftar kills the true spirit of fasting. The Prophet of Islam and his companions always used to take simple food at the time of iftar. It is reported that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, used to say at the time of iftar, "The thirst has gone and the veins are quenched and reward is confirmed if Allah wills." During the fast, a man turns towards God with renewed zeal. When a sincere prayer like this is uttered, God turns his special attention to it, and the rewards are boundless. Man prays in this world and the reward is given in the world hereafter. But fasting is an exception for which a taste of the reward is given in this world itself. Iftar gives a glimpse of the boundless rewards that await man in the world hereafter.
All right, well, that was a wonderful report. Thank you very much, team, for making sure that you're going to share your expertise in making our viewers aware. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you very much for coming together. And teamwork, ladies and gentlemen, makes the dream work as well. But now coming down to what we spoke about yesterday. And yes, we have been in the continuity as well, where earlier we were talking about Islamic values, then we came down to ijtehad, and today we actually want to talk about Islamic jurisprudence as well. But ladies and gentlemen, just to kind of establish what we talked about yesterday, so ijtihad, ladies and gentlemen, is when unfortunately we are unable to figure out any problem which arises within the society and we do not find it in the light of Quran and Sunnah.
Right.
People actually come together, sit together, scholarly people come together, at least they need to, so the basic which we got to know was that they really need to know at least more than 28 different subjects to kind of come together, sit, argue over what needs to happen, and then kind of decide. That's what we call ijtihad. And ladies and gentlemen, then we obviously take advantage of ijma as well, where the scholarly people come together. But now we're going to move further ahead of that as well, where we want to talk about jurisprudence and how the Islamic jurisprudence kind of work. But for a country where we've actually been following the British law as well, how do you think that the Islamic jurisprudence will survive? I think we really need to kind of talk about Sharia over here as well, have a better understanding. But for that, I would want Ms. Hajasati to kind of take the lead.
Right. Thank you so much for asking this question. I think it's a very valid question. And to sort of establish the link between the jurisprudence and ijtihad, so I would like to first introduce our very learned scholar, Imran Sandhu Saab. Assalamu alaikum and thank you so much for coming here.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for introducing me daily.
Sir, why is it that that you always try to kind of wear the same clothes I wear?
Well,
Is that a problem?
No, it's not a problem.
It's a nice
you know,
feeling,
but
no?
you know, every single day almost we are matching. You know, so Imran Sandhu Sahab after the show one day, you know, he actually held my hand. He was like, "Yeah, what are you doing? So, you know, whatever I wear, you wear." So I was like, "Okay, today I really need to be the first person to kind of say that as well."
so
But
you
sir,
are-
you're looking nice.
thank you, and you too.
Right,
You
right.
scratch my back and I scratch your
I
back.
will always.
Right.
Don't worry.
So now coming back to the topic, so sirs, my research revealed that the doors of the ijtihad were reopened in 18th century, and that too in the subcontinent, right? And I wanted you, some scholars says that was because of the colonialism. There was a resistance within the Muslim leaders and Muslims ulama for that matter, and they were saying that we need to resist the yoke of British imperialism. Why were the gates closed in the first place? I would like to ask you.
So they were never closed.
No?
Okay.
So the doors of ijtihad have never closed. There are certain scholars that may have an opinion that ijtihad is against the completion of the religion. No, it is not.
Okay.
Ijtihad is not something that is necessarily done because the religion is not complete. Rather, ijtihad completes the religion.
Right.
The value of ijtihad and the ethics of ijtihad would complete the religion. Ijtihad is not inventing a thing.
Right.
Innovation is not a positive value in Islam. We cannot do bid'ah. And ijtihad is against bid'ah.
But don't you think modern problems require modern solutions?
That is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, the idea is Quran and Sunnah have been revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quran has been revealed, Quran is wahi. And about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Quran itself says وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He does not talk about his talks with his own desire. Rather, whatever has been revealed to him, he talks whatever is revealed to him.
Okay.
So you can very well imagine that the sayings of Prophet, that is Dalil Zanni, and then the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is Dalil Qat'i. So what is ijtihad? Ijtihad is not innovating a new solution.
Right.
Right? And of course, why is ijtihad required? Because as the time passes, new conditions come. There are new environments that are coming. You know, with all this progress of the human race, the human society, new, and you know, at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the total population of that time was maybe equal to the population of Pakistan, 23 crores, and now it is 7 billion, 6 to 7 billion. So the more the population rises, more complexities get you know, come into place.
Right.
For example, now there are big corporations, even you know,
Banking system.
for example, the banking system has evolved to a great extent, and the economic systems have evolved to a great extent. Now the latest environment is of the world that the 4 factors of production, there are 4 factors of production according to the latest economic theory: land, labor, capital, and enterprise. The reward of capital, they say, is interest, while Islam says that you cannot earn interest. So now the environment of the world is that there is interest all around the world, and Islam prohibits usury or interest or riba. We call it as riba. So now what we have to do is we have to see these systems and give them solutions according to the Quran and Sunnah, that look, you are doing this transaction in this way. Now the right way to do this transaction is this way.
Right.
For example, you know, Allah says in Quran, "Ahallallahu al-bay'a wa harrama al-riba," that God Almighty has made the credit sale, selling things on credit, halal, but selling cash on credit is haram.
Okay.
Okay, that is riba. So you cannot sell cash on credit, but you can sell a product on credit with a cap on profit.
All right.
Okay, so this is what Islamic ideology tells us. How will we do ijtihad? Now let me give you an example. Instead of inventing a new thing, we will go back to the first century, 1438 years or 40 years ago approximately, and then we'll try to find out what was the actual replacement of riba that Prophet Muhammad said. So it is murabaha, selling a thing on murabaha, that is cost plus profit, and selling it on credit. So we can use that tool to replace riba. And very rightly so, you've seen Islamic banking getting all the traction in the last 20-25 years.
Yep.
And that is because of ijtihad of the modern day ulama.
All right, and thank you very much for explaining that. And I might take a little longer to kind of ask my question, and it's just because of the fact that, you know, for me, my understanding initially was when we kind of started to learn about Islamic banking, was that what they've done is that they've rather relatively changed the terms. For example, mudarba, musharaka, and what happens is that, you know, when we talk about interest, they say that we are going to take the rental value. Now imagine, so don't you think that we are tricking with words that, okay, you know,
No.
now we are not saying that we are actually taking interest from you, but what we are saying is that we are actually taking the rental amount from you, and that obviously happens to be a fixed amount.
No, look, it is not only rental. So look at the economic principles first. Land, labor, capital, and enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you put your land for a price, you can sell it or you can rent it.
Okay.
So modern economic principles agree, and Islam agree on rent, both of us.
Yep.
So what you can do is you can give
We're still paying the same amount, huh?
give your property on rent to anyone, right? And then comes murabaha. You know, enterprise has two forms of 2 or 3 forms. One is, I don't want to go into real details, but you know, you sell things on credit. Okay. This is a market norm. So what is credit? Credit is giving something on loan, but with a fixed price. What happens is, if you rent, if you give, we don't have to confuse between terms.
Yeah.
What Islamic banking does is, it actually changes the terms.
Yeah. That's what I was saying.
Look at this. The mushrikeen of that time, they also used to say, al-bay'u mislu riba, like credit sale and riba or interest are the same things.
Yep.
This is just a change of term. But Allah said, ahallallahu al-bay'a wa harrama riba. I have made bay halal, like credit sale, but giving a loan on sood haram.
All right.
Okay. Now one more thing. Now this is a complicated issue. I've heard my ustaz Mufti Taqi Usmani. He narrated to us. He was called by World Economic Forum.
Right.
And he gave us 6 presentations on how the world can get rid of riba.
All right.
Okay. And when he gave the presentations, they said this is the only solution that if the world adopts, these you know, economic bad times would go away, because it ties up the trade with assets. Now the world is actually tying up. If if you start making a row of dollar notes, the world is in a debt of such a big debt that the notes are going to go and revolve around the sun and come back, but it will not end. So this is how we have made the world so you know, gone into the debt of a few people.
Exactly, and sir, it's primarily because of the fact that obviously, you know, since we adopted the West and whatever the West practiced within the banking systems as well, and coming down to the point where, you know, when I kind of mentioned that, you know, we have actually adopted the system, now obviously West feels that God forbid, if we are going to kind of adopt to any other system, our own system will be in danger as well. But just to wrap it up very
It's
quickly.
not the world. It's a few individuals
Right.
But they're
The
stronger individuals now, which is why, you know, there's this
who are
monopoly as
who
well.
are heading the corporations. I
Exactly.
think it's a very good. You know, there is a debate going on in the West as well.
True.
And you know, when this depression came in 2007, 2008, the economic problems arose. All the banking system had to be, you know, had to be supported by the governments. Otherwise, they would have flopped.
Yeah.
But the Islamic banking system, because it was asset based, it survived without any injections.
Exactly. And that's wonderful.
Right. Sir, so also when I was doing a research on that, I came across, you know, this a notion which is very prevalent in the Western academia, that Islamic jurisprudence and law is not capable of evolution. Of course, that's a very Eurocentric analysis. And a lot of scholars obviously have refuted that. I really want you to, you know, briefly explain us that how it has evolved and what are the examples of the evolution of Islamic law and jurisprudence, modern example.
Okay, so you would see Pakistan in itself is an example of this modern evolution. The freedom struggle.
Right.
They wanted a two-state solution,
Of course.
and it was based out of the injunctions of Islam.
Right.
Right. So Pakistan was indeed a result of ijtehad of the scholars and the politicians of that time. So
but not everyone was in the favor of that, right?
yeah, there was a difference of opinion, and
Right.
ijtihad, you know, but the majority of Muslims, they wanted a two-state solution. You know, 2/3 remained with Pakistan and 1/3 remained with India.
Right.
So you know, ijtihad in modern times has a potential to create a full state. Rather, if you read Hazrat Shah Waliullah Rahmatullah alayh, and he saw some 230 or 300 years ago, he wrote a book, Hujjatullah al-Baligha. And you would be surprised to know he actually proposed this solution of the world order that could be possible to control, to govern this kind of the population blast. He said there are 4 categories of you know, governance systems that can control the world. One is at the level of village. The second level is at the level of you know, metropole.
Right.
And the third is a state like Pakistan, you know, a country. And the 4th level is the international level.
Right.
And you can see principally, but not the rules and regulations, the ethics. We do not agree with some of the ethical values of United Nations. I do not agree with that, but principally it is correct. You know, you should have an international body that can centralize some of the affairs of all the countries, so that, you know, an international law also exists. So if 2 nations get to confront each other, there should be a law that can have a decision. And the same thing should be, you know, for example, the Kashmir issue. Kashmir issue can only be resolved if the ethical values and the governance principles are put in the right direction, so there is no war that can go on.
And you know, for that body to exist, I think they really need to have that power as well, where they can make sure that whatever they are going to rule out, you know, it will be applied as well. Yes, and there needs to be that will as well. But sir, now coming down to, since we have been talking about ijtihad, you know, and I'm very sorry that I'm going to take you a little back as well. And it's because of the fact that right at the beginning, my very wonderful colleague actually mentioned that, you know, because we've been in the 18th century in colonialism as well. When we talk about colonialism, obviously, you know, for us people, Muslims, you know, who have actually ruled previously for 700 or more years, how do you think in colonialism ijtihad can exist when you are a minority? Do you think ijtihad can exist when you are a minority? Because you will certainly come together for ijtihad to make sure that it is applied onto each and every individual.
Ijtihad actually is not, you know, it is not a specific organization that can do ijtihad.
Okay.
It's
a set of people who can do it together.
It automatically happens. It happens in the society.
Okay.
These societies, they evolve.
Yeah.
But what is the difference between ijtihad and modernity? The modern ijtihad actually refers everything back to wahi.
All right.
Right.
And provide a solution according to today's environment.
Okay.
And modernity refers back to intellect only.
Okay.
So ijtihad is the use of intellect to understand the Quran and the Sunnah and provide a solution according to the Quran. In other words, ijtihad actually uncovers the underlying solutions between the lines in the Quran and the Sunnah, according to what Anbiya have done.
Okay.
So what I was able to deduce was that it is the use of reason to arrive at a knowledge of truth in religious affairs, right? That's what it is.
In religious and worldly affairs.
In religious and worldly affairs. Well, that's wonderful, and we certainly wanted to talk about jurisprudence today as well, sir, since we are short on time and we are so keen to learn. So what we're going to do is that we're going to do that tomorrow, inshallah, now, if you allow us to do so as well. And but just very quickly, let's kind of establish what jurisprudence is and how do you think that it applies?
So the jurisprudence is, the Islamic jurisprudence is Quran, the knowledge of Quran, coupled with the knowledge of Sunnah, and ijma and qiyas.
Ijma and qiyas.
And we'll explain these terms tomorrow.
Exactly. And while we talk about jurisprudence or Islamic jurisprudence, it has been about eye for an eye. And, we see that how it exists in Middle East as well. But, for a country where I actually established right at the very beginning as well that,
Islam is the only religion which at the jurisprudence level has 4 levels of jurisprudence. One is hudud.
Right.
Yep.
The other is tazir, and then qisas, and then ihsan.
Right.
So we'll discuss it tomorrow.
It's interesting.
How the Islamic jurisprudence is based on mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only system that has two levels where where it is a choice is given to choose between, according to the conditions, between qisas and diyat.
Qisas and diyat.
Qisas and diyat. Qisas is revenge, equal eye for an eye, and diyat is ransom to forgive.
All right. Well, that's something, ladies and gentlemen, which will definitely, we would certainly want to kind of have our conversation on that too as well. So please make sure that you stay tuned till tomorrow as well. But thank you very much, Imran Sandhu, for being with us. Always lovely to be in conversation with you. And you definitely look smart just like every single day. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually heading out towards a short break. But once you guys will come back, we will certainly be shedding light into something which I believe is a problem, since my father is going through it as well. And not a lot of people actually know about it. It can actually exist within kids and adults at the same time. We're heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere. Ramzan Pakistan.
Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan Pakistan.
Mosque, or the Royal Mosque in Lahore, commissioned by the 6th Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1671 and completed in 1673, is the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the 5th largest mosque in the world. Epitomizing the beauty, passion and grandeur of the Mughal era, it is Lahore's most famous landmark and a major tourist attraction. Capable of accommodating 5,000 worshippers, in its main prayer hall and a further 95,000 in its courtyard, it remains the largest mosque in the world. From 1673 to 1986, a period of 313 years, when overtaken in size by the completion of the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. Today, it remains the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the fifth largest mosque in the world after Masjid al-Haram, Grand Mosque of Mecca, and Al-Masjid al-Nabwi, Prophet's Mosque in Medina. The Hassan II Mosque in Casablanca and the Faisal Mosque in Islamabad. To appreciate its large size, the four minarets of the Badshai Mosque are 13.9 feet, 4.2 meters taller than those of the Taj Mahal, and the main platform of the Taj Mahal can fit inside the 278,784 square feet courtyard of the Badshai Mosque, which is the largest mosque courtyard in the world. Architectural wonders.
Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan Pakistan.
All right, amazing viewers, thank you very much for staying tuned to PTV World. You're definitely watching Ramzan Pakistan alongside Ms. Hajar Sati and Mr. Shahzad Hasan Khan. Earlier, ladies and gentlemen, we were in conversation with our favorite religious scholar, Mr. Imran Sandhu, where we actually spoke about ijtehad. We tried kind of making sure that, that we get done with ijtehad and move on to jurisprudence, which we did establish, and then we will certainly talk about that, inshallah, tomorrow. But now coming down to what are we talking about, because I said that, it exists within kids, newlyborns as well, and while they are developing, while their mental strengths are developing, ladies and gentlemen, the parents really need to kind of make sure that, God forbid, unfortunately, that they do not fall under the umbrella where they're not able to speak properly and they have problems related to their speech as well, and it is all linked with your brain development as well.
And Shahzad, that's a bit philosophical saying, but my professor used to say that...
That's what you always say, or you do, right?
Oh, okay. So my professor used to say that the language, the development of the language has done a lot of harm to this world.
Really?
Yes.
Why do you think he would profess that?
Because he says that there are a lot of misunderstandings that stems from the wrong use of language.
I think that, there have been larger misunderstandings, and it's probably because of the fact that we have not been using the correct emojis as well. That's what I think. But ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, to kind of make sure that we give you that piece of advice which everyone has been looking for, unfortunately, or God forbid, if you have a kid who's autistic, or there are kids who are with special needs as well, Down syndrome, for example, we will talk about behavioral therapy and speech therapy at the same time. We're very lucky that we've been joined by somebody who, first of all, happens to be a very romantic author at times as well. The way his picture illustrates, it looks like that as well. But ladies and gentlemen, he's a speech pathologist, one of the finest in the country. He happens to be a consultant homeo physician as well. He is Dr. Shahbaz Khalid Ranja Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So thank you very much for joining us once again. And alongside Ranja Sahab, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by a behavior therapist and a child psychologist, and she is Ms. Sobhi Adnan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, ma'am?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. So first things first, sir, let's talk about speech disorders in kids, and I will share an example. For example, my daughter, who's just 2.5 years old, her first language is English. She's been watching Nastia and all of these Baby Shark, we have a lot of famous singers singing that on different platforms as well. But what do you have to say? How do you think that parents will get to know eventually that, God forbid, there's a speech disorder in their kid?
I think after birth, if some child shows dysphagia, this is a first sign that a child maybe in future have speech disorder.
But what is that term you used right now?
Dysphagia.
And what do we mean by that?
Vomiting without any cause.
All right.
Okay.
Then if a child have delayed milestones and lack of babbling, like ba 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 da da da, you say, and then if not speak first word at 1 year of age, like mama ba, meaningful words,
Right.
then I think he needs speech therapy.
Okay.
You may wait for more 3 months maximum, not later than, and then we have to start speech therapy. And before 3 years, I think very beneficial if a child have been treated with speech therapy and speak normal in
So
normal manners.
what are the major types of speech disorders?
Yeah, there are 5 types of speech disorders. Language disorders relates to meaning of words.
Okay.
And then articulation disorders relates to production of sounds.
Yeah.
Then fluency disorders like stammering, cluttering,
Right.
rate of speech and pauses, like that. And then resonance disorders, hypernasality, hyponasality, then voice disorders, aphonia, dysphonia, hoarseness, and lot of voice disorders.
And sir, are all of these disorders because of the way you were born, or is it because of the environment you were in?
Both, maybe perinatal, postnatal, and prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal. There are 3 types of causes. Maybe someone in the neonatal period, and mother has diarrhea, hypothyroidism, hypertension, diabetes,
Right.
even accidents. There are a lot of things.
Right.
Due to the reason, the cause, the speech disorders before birth.
All right.
And then even cause of disabilities. Then birth anoxia at the time of birth, and lack of late first cry. Lack of first cry is a major reason of these speech disorders.
Thank you very much for saying the last thing as well, because just very recently, one of my friend actually became a father. He was like, my son is actually very calm and peaceful because he didn't even cry when he was born. I was like, I don't know whether it's a good thing or not. But he was like, we were worried. But moving on to ma'am over here. So ma'am, we obviously talking about prenatal, postnatal as well, and the problems. And we certainly, when we want to talk with you, we want to talk about the behavior disorders when, God forbid, if you have an autistic child or a child with Down syndrome. How do you think that we can modify their behaviors? And in the first place, how do you think that the parents really are not in denial?
And also, it's not just about the autism. Like Shahzad said, the use of pop culture. Like he mentioned the cartoons, the Cocomelon, that kids are addicted to that, and we also know the term because there's so much common. And there's also a slight speech delay, which a lot of kids are suffering nowadays from. So what do you have to say on that?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum.
First of all, you are asking me 3 questions. Okay. As a behavior consultant, according to my experience, first of all, we must be aware that what is the core problem, whether the child is having articulatory issues or sensory issues. If he or her is having sensory issues, then we have to consult sensory. We have to go for sensory integration. And if it's articulatory, then we have to consult ENT specialist as well as pediatric specialist as well, because we cannot treat articulatory issues all alone by speech pathologist or psychologist. It's a team. I always say a team works, then results comes out. That's my experience.
But for us, it is, we really need to be able to identify in the first place.
That's
how do we identify that?
First of all, that is very, very important, that the diagnosis should be very much proper. Mostly in our country, everything is overdiagnosed. The child is not suffering from autism, or he is ADHD, or yesterday a case came to me. The child was clearly, I can see he was Down syndrome, but on her reports it was Down syndrome and mild autistic.
A big blunder.
Look, it's a big blunder. So the psychologist should treat Down syndrome or autism, but I cannot say he was a qualified PhD doctor, professor doctor. So and the question you asked me about the behavior issues of Down syndrome and autistic, of course they have different issues. Because autistic child is very much different from Down syndrome. Down syndrome child have his own behavior issues, and autistic child have his own behavior issues.
So within both of these problems, do you think that we do have solutions for both of them?
Yes, of course. Special education have very big departments. We can. Well, I work on 5 senses, which are already. If the 5 senses are all available in Down syndrome.
You're missing out on one. Which one are you missing out on?
No. I say if the 5 senses by Allah Pak have given us hearing and all, the sense of touch.
Yeah.
That's in the women.
So that's what we should utilize for teaching the Down syndrome child. And a speech, if he is having speech issues, then we must consult speech pathologist. A doctor or a psychologist is not the person to go deal with that.
All right.
Right, and sir, I wanted to ask you this question. So there are parents that are apprehensive about, teaching their kids a lot of languages, right? So multilingualism or bilingualism. What does the research says in that case? Is it a good thing that if your child is bilingual or multilingual in the initial stages of development?
A lot of doctors from UK and America send patients with the Urdu language to me and said, your mother tongue is better for your treatment.
Okay.
I think firstly we have to start with mother tongue.
Okay.
This is important.
Okay.
If someone can speak in one language, then he can learn more language.
Yeah. Right. So
no issue.
It goes with the
firstly one language, but in mother language.
And sir, in addition to that, I would like to add over here, because my younger daughter, what she did was that, she's been watching Nasty and all of these cartoons. So her first language was actually English, and it took us almost 5 to 6 months to kind of understand what she was saying. But now all of a sudden she has started to pick up on Urdu as well.
Nowadays, nowadays media is like mother.
But now, sir, what happened? So it is a very interesting incident. What happened was, so now she started to pick up on Urdu. So now she would come up to me and she's like, you know what, Appa is daunting me. And I was like, this is not the right way to say it. You probably need to say that Appa's angry or Appa's not talking to me. And so it's a confusion. But sir, very quickly, we want you to kind of share all of those treatments which are available, because you happen to be one of those people who are doing these using neuro techniques to make sure that there's no speech problems out there in the kids and in the adults as well. And in addition to that, people who are elderly and who have palsy alongside their lips or face, and they even face difficulty in speaking. So what treatments are available?
I am innovator of neurotransmission cognitive therapy. This is a new innovation in the world. This is basically artificial neurotransmission. And through sound waves, we generate neurotransmission and stimulate the brain cells, affected brain cells, and the organs become functional. And I think
so it can be used for any organ. No issue at all. Not even only for speech, but I think that it can actually be used for any organ. It can even be used for nerve damage as well.
This is beneficial for writing, even walking, standing, for all purposes.
So it's for rehabilitation purposes.
Yeah. Basically, we work on the neuromuscular coordination.
True.
And work on the brain. When you work on the brain, speech relates to brain, walking relates to brain, and
everything.
Running relates to brain also.
That's wonderful. And sir, for all those people who've been going to physiotherapists to make sure that their face palsy might go away, do you think that works?
This is basically physiotherapists also work on neuro rehabilitation.
Very time consuming.
And this is advancement, latest advancement in the neuro rehabilitation. And your Ministry of Science and Technology declared that neurotransmission cognitive therapy can be used by physiotherapist, occupational therapist, and speech therapist, and then neurophysician.
Right. Okay, so ma'am, I wanted to ask you this question. So a lot of kids, young kids or toddlers, or maybe some kids are, they develop this the language skills in a later stage, right? And so some of the doctors, as I was researching for this program, said that there's a wait and see approach, right? So you need to wait and see, if there is a disability in your kid, or maybe he's late in speaking. Do you agree with this approach? Because it might happen is that in wait and see that more damage can be done to your kid.
I disagree with that because recently, now in advanced countries, the Montessori started from 6 months.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's 6 months, the child is in the cot and they are giving the colors and they are saying green, blue, red. So we cannot
6
delay.
months?
Yes, 6 months.
Really?
Yes, 6 months.
Where are those kids?
Because everything is going on so fast and this speech delay problem is increasing day by day. Before 5 years, it should be, you know, the child must, it should be sorted out and we should be working on that. Even some traumas give them speech delay.
For example, what kind of traumas?
For example, nowadays, it's Ramzan, yeah? Everybody is sleeping after Sahri.
Yeah.
The kid he has to wake up and everybody, keep quiet, don't shout. Grandfather is sleeping there.
They don't even sleep till Sahri.
Yes, they will, a time will come, they will learn to keep quiet. Of course, you are snapping and you are trying to control the child.
But, ma'am, you know what? So you happen to be a behavior therapist, right? And you know, God forbid, if a kid has a trauma, how do you think that you are going to modify their behavior if parents come in, yari hamari baat nahi sunda, you know, he or she does not listen to us at all. So what kind of behavior modification will you do to the kid? And do you think it's legal to modify someone's behavior?
Yeah.
Why would you do that without
no,
their
we should not
permission?
If the behavior is creating problem, you know, the behavior is creating problem and it is distracting all the family members and it's very, very abnormal. Then we need to consult a behavior consultant. We need to know the core area from where the behavior has come, because the behaviors are learned and unlearned.
Yeah.
So we can unlearn the behavior. He or she must have adopted that behavior from somewhere.
Right.
So, and we have to give them an option to remove the wrong behavior. So mother and parents, I think they are the best resource for that regarding their behavior issues. And sometimes mother doesn't know herself that she was the one who was creating all this behavior.
Probably. And very quickly towards the end, one last question, and I believe it's a funny question, but what happens is when you know, when we get to travel to the West, you see a lot of kids and foreign moms, and you know, all of a sudden, so she'll be like, hey John, why don't you take your book and sit on the couch and just read it? And John obviously does that, you know, 100%. Over here, bete, you have a kitab pakad ke sofa mein baithna and the beta starts running away, you know, and this is something which I have witnessed. I'm like, I don't know what's the difference in between parenting, where when we say to our kids, they won't listen at all, but when they say it, they listen to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, please answer that.
When I was in Belgium and it was the teacher, she was teaching children to cross the roads. You know, only Asian children were the children who were not listening to her. They were going this side and that side. I think it's something genetically, but maybe.
Probably.
But it's just a joke.
That's your opinion.
Yeah, that's
They are by birth politicians.
Sir, hum bade gair siyasi, we're not a political show anyways.
But the reason is that because I'm not saying yes to the child from by birth. I'm trying to, I myself teaching him or her no.
Yeah.
Don't do this, don't do this. So he learned that behavior.
Exactly.
So he will reversely say.
Yeah, the
when
mother
I
will
say,
always only tell me
first
not
I
to
have
do it.
to obey. I have to listen to him. I have to obey him. I have to do what he wants. Then he will.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much, Ranjit Saab, Dr. Ranjit Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation. Thank you very much, Ms. Sobia, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with you as well. And for each and every individual who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, inshallah, we will be talking about jurisprudence. Anything you would want to kind of contribute?
I think I'm very excited for our topic. And with that, I think we had a very interesting conversation, especially about the speech therapy and the behavior therapy. Yeah. And with that, we'll say a bid you farewell. And until next time, it's a goodbye.
And until next time, we will definitely keep our questions short as well. Till the next time, look after yourselves. Ramzan Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.
Ramzan Pakistan, Ramzan Pakistan.